I'm Charlie Pryde.
And I'm Jennifer Pryde. Welcome to our YouTube channel, Pride of the Villages.
This video is a continuation of our recent 15-day trip to China with Viking Cruise Lines, which included a 9-night cruise on the Viking Yidun, followed by land excursions to Xian and Beijing. Our previous video left off with us on the ship in Shanghai. The morning departure required checked luggage placed outside of the room by 10:30 p.m. the night before. Colored tags with numbers were provided according to departure groups. We had a 1-hour drive to the Shanghai airport with our assigned Viking guide, Kevin, who we met the night prior. Our flight was on China Eastern Airlines, and it was a 2-hour flight to Xi'an with a lunch provided. We were allowed one checked bag not to exceed 20 kilograms or 44 pounds, one carry-on bag that can fit in the overhead, and a personal item that could fit under the seat. Make sure to have your own entertainment for the flight, as that is limited. Upon arrival, our checked luggage was taken directly to the hotel, along with those passengers not wanting to go on the optional tour. We chose the optional tour to see Xi'an's city walls. Arriving by the south gate, Kevin gave us an orientation in the museum about the initial wall construction in 1370 during the Ming Dynasty. We then took an elevator 40 feet to the top of the wall and were given 45 minutes to roam the walls. As night fell, the walls were all lit up, and we walked across what was a very large moat at one time. It was now time to check into our hotel for the next 2 nights, the JW Marriott, Xi'an Southwest. This is a new hotel located in the heart of the business district. Styled with decor representative of the city, the rooms were one of the largest we have ever experienced on tour, with all the amenities we needed. Big screen TV, coffee and tea bar, mini fridge, a big welcoming soaking tub, and a rainfall shower. The first night's meal in the main restaurant was included and was buffet style. The selection of choices varied from traditional Chinese dishes such as dim sums and noodle dishes to Western selections such as barbecue. What'd you get, Jen?
Bang Bang noodles.
Bang Bang noodles? The seafood selection was outstanding to include shellfish, king crab legs, and lobster claws. If you wanted to try Chinese hairy crabs, this was your chance. Beer, wine, and soft drinks were also included, and of course there were plenty of desserts. Breakfast the next morning was included, and also buffet style. The next morning, we are on a bus to see the famous Terracotta Army as the included Viking tour. As our guide Kevin explains on the way, the Terracotta Army is a collection of terracotta sculptures depicting the armies of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. The army is part of a form of funeral art buried with the emperor, with the purpose of protecting him in his afterlife. The figures, dating from approximately the late 200s BC, were discovered in 1974 by local farmers located 40 kilometers from Xian. The Terracotta army is part of a much larger necropolis with approximately 38 square miles. The necropolis was constructed as a microcosm of the emperor's imperial palace, and it is estimated that the project involves 700,000 conscripted workers. The emperor's earthen tomb mound is located at the foot of Mount Li and is built in a pyramidal shape. Other non-military terracotta figures have since been found in other pits, including those of officials, acrobats, strongmen, and musicians. Referred to as the eighth wonder of the world, it is needless to say that seeing the terracotta warriors is a popular attraction for domestic and international tourists. After entrance, we take a tram ride to the Terracotta Army location. The army is positioned approximately 1.5 kilometers east of the burial mound, where the soldiers are laid out as to protect the tomb from the east, where the Qin emperors conquered the states laid. There are 3 excavation pits containing the Terracotta Army with an estimated total of 8,000 soldiers, 130 chariots with 520 horses, and 150 cavalry horses. We enter Pit 1, which is the largest pit containing the main army of infantrymen. Pit 2 is similar to Pit 1 in that it has cavalry and infantry units as well as war chariots and is thought to represent a military guard. While most of Pit 2 remains buried and under further archaeological excavation, it has on display some of the most intact pieces of the army. Considering the crowds gathered around the figures, I was fortunate to bring my camera's selfie stick to get some footage. Some of the figures in Pits 1 and 2 show fire damage, while remains of burnt ceiling rafters have also been found. This, together with missing weapons, have been taken as evidence of the reported looting thousands of years ago. Pit number 3 is believed to be the headquarters of the formations in the other 2 pits and contains 68 soldiers, 4 horses, and a chariot. As you can see from all my videos here, there's a large amount of people, so you do need to persistent on working your way to the front for pictures and videos. It was a full morning and now time for lunch. Now there is a wide range of restaurants and local vendors on site, but we travel off the site to a restaurant that also functions as a souvenir shop for all things Terracotta Warriors. Lunch was buffet style, and the specialties were the Xian hamburger, which was a pork sandwich, and the noodle dishes. We tried both, and they were really good. The souvenir shop had everything from terracotta miniatures, which you could see being made,
A few minutes later, open mode, you see here, some the roughly made the warriors here. The model lines is not detailed. The warriors is hollow inside, yes. Yes, hollow inside, and even the small one, even the big one. They are all hollow, yeah. The museum, the real one, hollow too, yeah. And after making
all the way to full-size replicas. The miniatures were roughly $10 and could easily fit in your return luggage. The full-size versions were costing about $3,000 and not sure what the shipping costs would be to get them home. Also, if you had the time, you could have your terracotta soldier cast in your own facial image. I'm not sure what those costs would be extra. After lunch, we visit the Qinshi Mausoleum Site Park, an area of about 558 acres. From November to December of 1980, a series of trial excavations were conducted, and eventually 2 sets of brilliantly painted bronze chariots, each drawn by 4 horses, were found from the wing room of the mausoleum. Before the excavation, they had already fallen into more than 1,000 pieces. It took 8 years renovation work to reproduce the original appearance of the chariots and horses. They are the largest and best preserved bronze chariots in China, with a half size of the real imperial chariots. The first one is a standing chariot named Chariot 1. The second one is a sitting chariot named Chariot 2. So while this was a long day with crowds of people, we will say that visiting the Terracotta Warriors was the best included tour of our 15-day journey with Viking. After having dinner on our own and a good night's sleep, the next morning we were back at Xian Airport for our flight to Beijing. This 2-hour flight was on Hainan Airlines. Not only were the domestic flights efficient in China, but the airports with updated technology were impressive as well. While you feel the price gouging in U.S. airports, cost of drinks and food in the Chinese airports was very reasonable. Landing in Beijing was a similar routine to Xi'an. Checked luggage was handled by Viking staff, and any passengers not opting for afternoon tours were shuttled directly to the hotel. We took the optional tour to the Temple of Heaven, located in the southeastern part of central Beijing. The Temple of Heaven, founded in the first half of the 15th century, is a dignified complex of fine buildings set in gardens and surrounded by historic pine woods. In its overall layout and that of its individual buildings, it symbolizes the relationship between earth and heaven, the human world and God's world. The complex was visited by emperors of the Ming and Qing dynasties for annual ceremonies of prayer to heaven for a good harvest. The Temple of Heaven was inscribed as a World Heritage Site in 1998. Our guide, Kevin, expertly navigated us through the 675-acre complex. Late afternoon, it was time to check into our residence for the next 3 nights, and that was the Kerry Hotel, located in the central business district situated next to the tallest buildings in Beijing. Although this was only mid-November, the hotel was very nicely decorated for Christmas time. The hotel's clientele is a mix of international and Chinese tourists and business people. The Kerry hotels are luxury level and part of the Shangri-La group. During our stay, we noticed that they were hosting several special events, including wedding receptions. Technology was incorporated throughout the hotel, from the floor cleaners to the toilets in your room. If you ever wanted to use one of those automated toilets that does everything for you, then this is your chance. Of course, they have a pool, fitness center, and an outdoor walking track. Surprisingly was how quiet it was in the central business district. Beijing has received past criticism for its air quality, but it seems to have gotten a lot better as the country has shifted further to new energy vehicles. Over half of the vehicles sold last year in China were new energy vehicles. You can notice such, as gas-powered vehicles have blue license plates, and the electric or hybrid vehicles have green license plates. Electric scooters are also a very popular way to get around Beijing, especially for short distances. The city has set up special lanes for electric scooters and e-bikes on many major roads, and they are also allowed on sidewalks and pedestrian crossings. Locals even drive them in the winter, using scooter quilts to keep warm. Our first night meal was included and served in Kerry's main restaurant. Our next 3 breakfasts would also be included at the restaurant. These meals were buffet style and similar to our hotel in Xian. The cuisine was a wide variety of Chinese and Western dishes. Now, something Beijing is famous for is its Peking duck. And there is an optional tour one evening to experience this dish at a restaurant next to the hotel. The reviews that we heard from other travelers was that it was very good. After breakfast the next morning, we were on an optional tour to the Summer Palace. When the bustle of Beijing became too much for the emperors, they would retreat to the Summer Palace, an oasis located in Beijing's northwest suburbs. As Kevin takes us through the East Gate, we get our first glimpse of this complex that encompasses 717 acres, larger than the Temple of Heaven and the Forbidden City. As we exit the West Gate, we are on our way to lunch at a local restaurant, included as part of the tour. This lunch experience was sitting with other tour guests eating family style, a variety of Chinese dishes on a lazy Susan. After lunch was our included tour for the day, the Forbidden City and Tiananmen Square. Originally built in 1651, this square was considerably altered in 1958 following the vision of Mao Zedong to make the square the largest and most spectacular in the world, with the intent to hold over 500,000 people. Today, it is the location of a number of significant buildings, such as the Great Hall of the People and the National Museum of China. Daily at sunrise, there is a national flag-raising ceremony conducted by members of the armed forces. Chairman Mao gave a number of historical speeches on this square, to include declaration of a new nation on October 1st, 1949. And not only does his portrait hang from the Tiananmen Gate, but he is laid to rest in his mausoleum at the south end of the square. It was now time to enter through the Tiananmen Gate and into the Forbidden City. Commissioned in 1406 by the Yongle Emperor of the Ming Dynasty, this palace complex was first officially occupied by the court in 1420. It was so named because access to the area was barred to most of the subjects of the realm. The 178-acre compound was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1987 in recognition of its importance as the center of Chinese power for over 5 centuries. The orientation of the Forbidden City follows a north-south line. Within the compound, all the most important buildings, especially those along the main axis, face south to honor the sun. The relative importance of a building can be judged not only from its height or its width, but also from the style of its roof and the number of figurines perched on the roof's ridges. The sloping ridges of building roofs are decorated with a line of statuettes, led by a man riding a phoenix and followed by an imperial dragon. The number of statuettes represents the status of the building. Despite its age, most of the buildings you see are post-18th century Qing dynasty construction and renovations. Fire was a constant hazard, hence the enormous brass water vats everywhere. In the Forbidden City, there are many animal statues in front of the palace gates or the great halls. In Chinese culture, these are auspicious animals to ward off evil spirits, bring good fortune and luck, and pray for permanent and continuous blessing of the country. The dragon is the most revered animal in China, and ancient Chinese emperors are called as the son of dragon, so they are the most frequently seen animal in the Forbidden City. In ancient times, the tortoise represented longevity, so was placed in front of the palace, blessing the longevity of the emperor and his offspring. The palace receives more than 15 million visitors a year, so you can expect to have a lot of company during your visit to the Forbidden City. Also expect lines at the series of security checks entering Tiananmen Square. Your Viking representative will guide you through that process and make sure that you enjoy your day like these girls did. Getting back to the hotel early evening, we decided to take the very efficient Beijing metro to Wangfujing Street and wander its main pedestrian shopping area. The next morning was our journey to the Great Wall of China and included Viking tour. The different portions of the walls were constructed over a period of 2,000 years and stretched 20,000 kilometers from the east seaside to the northwest desert of China. It is the only man-made structure visible from space. Being that the wall is best preserved close to the capital city, Beijing is usually considered the main gateway to the Great Wall. These sections close to Beijing were built during the Ming Dynasty between the 14th and 17th centuries. Of these sections of the Great Wall near Beijing, Badaling is the most famous one. As a result, Badaling is the destination of choice for many tour groups, including ours. Traveling 45 miles on bus and arriving ahead of schedule. We beat any potential crowds as this massive billboard is intended to entertain those waiting in line. We were also the first to get tickets for the ground cable car that would take us up to the wall. Kevin led the way as our tour group boarded the cable car and continued our journey uphill to the wall that sits at an elevation of 3,000 feet. Now, this is the most restored portion of the Great Wall, and a lot of accommodation has been incorporated to allow people to access the top. At the top, before giving us free time to roam, Kevin gives us an orientation and advises us on which direction is the easiest walk and which direction is the most challenging. Jennifer chose the latter. As you can see, everyone was dressed warmly, and several folks on the tour bought hats when they arrived off the bus. Kevin informed us the next day that it snowed at Bottling overnight. While that may be picturesque, not sure Jennifer and I would have done our wall trek if it had snowed. Taking the cable car down the hill to where we started, we were given free time to explore. Being a popular tourist spot, Bottling has all the infrastructure of hotels, restaurants, and shops. Viking had set up a big break room in this hotel with hot drinks and snacks provided. This main street is the place to get your Great Wall souvenirs, and it was lined with some interesting metal sculptures as well. Approaching noon, we traveled on bus to this establishment for lunch. All the Viking tour groups were arriving here, and lunch was a variety of dishes shared by the table. Soft drinks and beer was included, along with a bottle of this fire water, which will warm you up. Besides being a hotel and restaurant, this building housed all things jade for sale, and I mean everything. You can see some of the smaller items being made, and just imagine the craftsmanship that went into the larger pieces of art. Jewelry seemed to be the number one choice for the ladies. Leaving our lunch venue behind, we arrived at the Ming Tombs Sacred Way for the second half of our included tour. During the years 1368 to 1644, 16 emperors ruled China during the Ming Dynasty. Of those, 13 are interred in an extensive burial complex near the base of a mountain range. For years, the site was closed off to everyone. However, starting in the mid-20th century, researchers began excavating and restoring some of the tombs. Today, only 3 of the mausoleums are accessible to visitors, and the rest are being restored with plans to gradually open them by 2030. Therefore, the tour was a walk on the grounds leading to the tomb area, which includes a sacred passage lined with stone statues. After our afternoon walk, it was time to head to the hotel, and on the way we made a slight detour to view the Bird's Nest, the national stadium constructed for the 2008 Beijing Olympic Games. Getting back to the hotel that evening, we started packing for our return home the next day. However, our flight from Beijing to the U.S. was not scheduled until 7 p.m., and we asked for a late checkout until 2 p.m., which was granted. This gave us time the next morning to further explore the area around the hotel. There is a small shopping venue connected to the back entrance to the hotel, but a huge mall is located just south of that, and you can access it over an enclosed land bridge from the hotel property. The China World Mall is ginormous, with retail stores, restaurants, a grocery store, and entrance to the metro system. It is laid out in 3 sections with multiple levels. At the center of the mall is a large ice skating rink. A lot of the designer stores are places we do not typically shop, but the multi-level FAO Schwartz was worth going into, especially seeing what's out for Christmas and the Lego displays. The New York Bagelless Museum was our stop for lunch, and it did not disappoint. Across the aisle from that is the Sweet Spot, which provided us some needed sugar to last us through the afternoon. The bus ride and check-in at Beijing Airport was seamless, and Viking had us booked on United to the U.S. West Coast and then on to Orlando, arriving home. So wrapping up the video, I can't say enough good things about our Viking guide Kevin, who we met in Shanghai and escorted us throughout our excursions in Xian and Beijing. If you get Kevin as your Viking guide, then you have won the guide lottery. One of the questions I received after publishing our Viking cruise video was, how were we treated by the Chinese people? We were treated fantastically, everyone from customer service to the people on the street. There were locals curious and enthusiastic about interacting with Westerners. However, don't expect a lot of people on the street to speak English. That is why I recommend having a translation app on your cell phone. Also, as mentioned in the cruise video, here are some Viking reminders. China has become a cashless country. Payment apps like Alipay are commonly used, vice credit cards. Also ensure you have a VPN on your smart devices if you rely on social media to connect with home. So hopefully you found that video informative, along with the previous video we did on the 9-day cruise with Viking in China. And together, hopefully that helps you make any decision you may have on traveling with Viking. So until our next video, our next adventure, we wish you a great day wherever you are.